questions, and take as much of this information and try to start implementing it in your uh, daily strategies as well. So I'll let Ed go ahead dive in. All you gotta do is, yep, just either click left or right or click on the mouse.
Okay. All right. How y'all doing? I'm Ed Mathis. I'm with Vice President of Republic Commercial Real Estate. So all I do is commercial real estate. I don't do any residential. I've never done anything like that. So if you got any questions about drapes and curtains and all that stuff, I can't help you on that. So first, before I get into it, I like to know who I'm kind of talking to. We, small enough group that we can kind of. I think me and you were at the survey. We did the survey together. So yeah. You say your name again?
Yep, Zach, Cincinnati trainer.
Yeah, Cincinnati trainer. Yeah, I'll be seeing your content online too. Yeah, I see it, man. Yeah. Oh, that's it.
My name's Edwin with EKS
Electric, okay. You do commercial and residential? Okay, awesome. How about you?
Levante with Ground Zero Electric.
Electric, okay.
Renata with Healthy Hair Matters Lockmore.
Oh, you said what was it called?
Healthy Hair Matter Lockmore.
Okay.
I'm Sierra Hayden with We Outside Cincinnati.
Okay. What is it called again?
We Outside Cincinnati.
Okay. What was it? No. So today, I just kind of wanted to go over a few things that, I don't know how many of y'all want to get into a building, or some people don't, they want to be all online, and I don't know. But so I just kind of put together an overview, kind of some stuff that you can use that's practical, that as you out here moving around, and if you ever decide to get in a space, or if y'all working on a property and you got a couple things that, because when you're dealing with these commercial guys, they tend to like to vet you quickly on how the way you speak about different things, and they know if you know commercial real estate or not. And if you don't, they kind of try to move on and find somebody else that does, commercial electric. So this might help you in that as well. So,
Ed,
yeah.
before you really start, can you give him background on you? Because I think you have a name that precedes itself, but some people may not know.
Yeah.
And just to kind of know your background on who you are and kind of how you got to this stage.
Yeah. So I'm born and raised here in Cincinnati. I born in Lower Homes, moved to Mount Auburn. Then I went to North College Hill, played football and stuff. Then I got a chance to go up to Rockford, Illinois, and play college ball up there, a place called Rock Valley. And I did well enough where I had some opportunities to possibly come back here and do some professional stuff. So I came back here. Marvin Lewis was here at the time, and me and a group of guys, we trained for like 6 months to almost a year, getting ready for these trials. And then I'm like, football is gonna be my thing. I'm gonna do that one way or another. So we got the call to do the trial. We had 2 weeks to get ready, and 1 week we were getting ready. Then the next week we had a family reunion. I went to the family reunion over in Roseline when Celebrities was still there. And we getting ready. We rented out to do the family reunion. And as we was in our driveway talking and laughing with the family, some guys tried to rob us, and then end up I was doing too much negotiating, trying to talk too much, and the guys ended up shooting my legs out. And I ended up learning how to walk. I almost passed away, all that stuff, and had to come back. So I had to figure out what I was gonna do, because I thought football was it. And so I did everything, man. I sold water door to door, drove chlorine trucks through the tri-state, delivering the cul-de-sacs and houses, all kinds of stuff. And funny, the same buildings that asked me to sell them now, the same ones that used to trespass me, tell me not to sell no water in there and stuff like that. So I always liked commercial real estate, though. I just never knew how to get into it. Didn't know anybody that was, in my family that had commercial real estate, nobody in my immediate circle. So I found the building downtown that I wanted to buy, and it was like $2 million. And I just started running around to everybody, asking them for the money. Every banker that had listened to me, everything, they thought I was crazy. Then I found out about the business carrier, the newspaper in town. I don't know if you know about it, but that's where all of the businesses, everybody, they try to convene in that newspaper. It's called the Cincinnati Business Carrier. But that's where, if anything big happened in this town, they put it in that newspaper, because they want to get it out to as many business people as possible to let them know what they're doing. So I found out about that. And then I went they had a networking event where they had like some people from the Bengals, some business leaders, all these people was there. So I went there. I'm like, I read a couple books. I'm like, I need an attorney, a CPA. This is what this book says. So I'm gonna go down there so I can find them. So I went through there and I was running around talking to all these people, and ended up meeting a guy that was an attorney. He took me to lunch and was like, look, man, I'm about to retire, but somebody like you gonna do something. So I'm gonna introduce you to many people as I can before I leave. and he ended up introducing me to a CPA that became a mentor, Richard Flynn. And then he introduced me to the guy that I got with named Nick Barella that's in commercial real estate. He taught me how to sell, lease, all that different stuff, how to analyze markets. And from there, Nick is more like office and medical. So my natural progression is just be more like people facing, small businesses, local businesses, municipalities. So I just kind of naturally started drifting that way. And through the grace of God, I've been able to just kind of expand and it kind of grow rapidly. And so the city of Cincinnati asked me to do a lot of work for them, the Port Authority, College Hill Church, any of the CDCs, they all asked me to do a lot of work. Hamilton County Auditor just appointed me downtown to the Board of Revision, so I do all that for all the property taxes throughout the Hamilton County. Man, it's just going on. I'm happy to do all the work. It's a lot of work, but what keep me going is just being able to, give people access to information that I didn't have access to. And then you talk to people and then you get into deals. What happened is you get into a deal and you think because hey, how much the rent costs, but they don't explain to you the part that you lose all your money is in the fine details of the contracts. And that's where a lot of people get killed at. And I run into a lot of know-it-alls. They know it all. They know more than me. And I try to tell them like, hey, to pay attention to this, pay attention to that. Even if you don't want me working on it, pay attention to this stuff. And you get a lot of them come back and be like, I should have listened to that because that's where they took advantage of me at. And I can't really say it's taking advantage of. It's like, hey, if I give you a contract and you don't know what to negotiate back on, that's up to you. So you gotta be diligent about that because that's where the money is made and law setters in them contracts. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. And at any time in this, please stop me, ask me questions. Because, I'll do this, but I prefer to kind of talk to you, have a conversation and see if I can answer some questions because it might be something that I didn't cover here that you might have seen out there that you're like, hey, I want to dig more into this because I've seen this and I want to understand it a little bit more. I'm Ed. What's your name?
I'm Marquetta.
Nice to meet you,
Nice to meet
Marquetta.
you as well.
What was your business?
So I'm an insurance agent.
Okay. So right here, most business owners don't lose deals; they lose money in the fine print. So that's why I was saying in those contracts. That's where the rubber hit the road is in those contracts. So you got to be real diligent about them. I don't care if it's a commercial real estate deal or you're dealing with a vendor. You want to make sure that you understand the contract or find you somebody that will be able to interpret that contract for you and break it. When I'm dealing with somebody, I should be able to talk to them no matter if you understand commercial real estate or not. I should be able to explain the contract to you. And you should be able to at least grasp the concept of it, to understand, like, okay, this is where this contract is saying. If you get into a deal with anybody and it's just like too complicated and you can't understand it at all, like it's because they're doing it on purpose. They don't want you to understand because they got something in there that could affect their earnings in some kind of way. So you should be able to explain everything in layman's terms to anybody. So if you don't leave anything, leave with that you could be able to explain, that every contract should be able to explain. So in this picture, we just did this not too long ago. Nightcap restaurant. They used to be in Silverton. We moving them to College Hill, so they'll be on Hamilton Avenue in the College Hill Plaza. Kershana, her sister, they do an amazing job. I mean, I probably, I've been trying to lose, but I've been over there in that restaurant gaining, But I've been patronizing, so I feel good about it, Feel good about it. So, so some of the things I wanted to cover with you is. You got like a few different levels when you're dealing with leases, and it kind of jump out at you if you don't know about these things before they come. So you got base rent. So the base rent is, hey, I want $5,000 for this space. That's the base rent. On top of that, but almost, I won't say every one of them, but majority of contracts, or majority of leases, have what they call CAM charges. And CAM is common area maintenance. So if you're in an office building, the common area maintenance would be like the hallways, the community bathrooms, the sidewalks, the snow removal, the grass cutting. All of that stuff is called common area maintenance. So if the landlord, throughout the year, it costs them $100,000 to do that, all of those different services, whatever your particular amount of square footage, they will break that piece. If it's 1,000 square feet, they take that and you get a piece of that 100,000 and they put it towards that number. So when you see this in your contract and you like, man, you told me it was 5,000, but now I see you gave me a contract and it says 6,500, is because they putting common area maintenance in there, or they putting a thing they call triple net, which is you'll see it on there to say NNN charges, which is basically your property. They pass through a lot of their charges on a building, whether it's property taxes, their insurance, and the maintenance of a property, all of the stuff that keep a property running. They pass it through in the rents, and they pass it through in the triple nets, or they pass it through in the common area maintenances. So you'll see that, and so the rent is usually negotiable. So if they saying it's 5,000, you should be able to move the rent. You know, you could say 4,000, whatever you feel like that number is. But usually these numbers are hard because they can show you paperwork saying that they had to pay these numbers, and this is passed through, and everybody gets a piece of that. So these numbers don't get negotiated, but you can negotiate the rent. A lot of people don't know that. They think, well, I can't negotiate none of it. But you can negotiate the base rents, but you can't negotiate really the triple nets or the CAM charges, because they just, my property taxes, my insurance, my snow removal, all of that stuff is hard numbers that they can't really get rid of as a landlord. So they can negotiate the other piece, but that they want to keep that there. So maintenance responsibilities. So this varies, but it's important though. So when you're going to negotiate any lease, I don't care if it's a small office, a small storefront, or 100,000 square foot warehouse, y'all might have to put y'all electrical components in. You want to make sure that when you negotiate that contract, that three things you definitely want to pull up is ask them about the HVAC, who's responsible for that, and how much of this is you asking me to be responsible for. Because say if we all together lease this floor from the chamber and they give us a lease, they're going to want to pass off who's maintaining the HVAC system. So who's going to do the quarterly maintenance? If it breaks, who's going to fix it? And as you know, in commercial units, a house unit could be about 10,000, sometimes 5,000-10,000 to fix. A commercial unit could be 30, 40, 50,000. And if they got multiple units on top, that could be times that you can get up to the hundreds of thousands. We got one in Loveland now. They had 3 units on the top of a warehouse building, and it's 200,000 to replace them. Like, so that's a huge number. If that's a big liability right there. So you like, oh, what am I responsible for as the tenant when it comes to that HVAC stuff? So this is what I like to do. So I mean, a lot of landlords and other brokers when they see me coming, they don't like it because I'm gonna get into that. So usually they tell you just blanket. They'll say, well, you're responsible as the tenant because you're using it, you're responsible for it. But if I pick up and leave, I can't take the AC unit with me. So I'll pay my share, but I'm not gonna pay for your whole unit if it go down. So when you negotiating this with any, if you use a broker, if you negotiate yourself, when you ask them about the HVAC, you tell them, hey, I'm willing to pay for the quarterly maintenance, which is like filters, having somebody come out, making sure that the dust is out of it and all that stuff, the preventative maintenance stuff to it, which is, all of that stuff is under $1,000. And then you tell them per incident, I'm willing to pay up to 1,000. They may push you and say, well, we at least got to get 2,000. And they may push you up to 2,000. But anything higher than that, tell them I'm not interested in going higher than that because it's not my unit. I'm willing to pay my share on it. Because what'll happen is a unit will go down. And most of these commercial units going to at least cost $5,000 and up just to fix whatever that component in it. So if you can keep the cap down, if you can press that cap down to 1,000, 2,000, you really pretty much controlling yourself to just maintenance on it. So that's good. I'm cool with maintenance. I'm just not cool with if the fan break on this thing, the motor go out. Like, I'm not going to be giving you 10, 15,000 to fix this, which people do though. I had a childhood friend, her and her husband, they got a space out back Coleraine, and I told them this. I said, hey, you want to take a look at the HVAC, you want to make sure that you take a look at the plumbing in the contract. And her husband was like, oh, I got that under control. I'm like, I'm telling you, take a look at it because that's an older building. And he didn't. And what he do, 4 months later, he called me and said, Ed, can you take a look at my contract for free? He's trying to give somebody free 99 action. He's like, let me take a look at my contract because the HVAC went down and the owner said it's on me. And I said, well, how much is he saying it costs? $35,000. And he only been there for 4 months. So the landlord's like, he's like, well, I told the landlord I ain't responsible, but in the contract, when it got to the HVAC part, it said tenant is responsible for all maintenance and anything that goes with the HVAC and the plumbing and the electric. So now you on the hook for $30,000. I mean, you can go get you a lawyer, but at that point, it's like, now you got to try to figure out, you're almost kind of begging them like, hey, at least split it with me. So at least then you still out of $15,000. It's like, well, you could have handled this before you got into space. So that's important. So that the plumbing's the same way and the electric is the same way. Not trying to knock y'all out. I don't want y'all to make sure y'all eat, but electric is the same way. Because as you know, if you're working on a big commercial project, the numbers can go up because you got to order bigger parts, more parts. You got to get more labor when you're dealing with a huge facility. But they're gonna try to pass that through to you, and you don't want that. So that's super important. So before we get too far, do everybody know how to calculate your commercial space when they tell you the space is $12 a square foot? Because that's most of the time you look at a brochure online, it's gonna say, the space is 1,000 square feet and it's $12 a foot. Do everybody know how to calculate that? We can calculate it. So if you want to write it down, so you take the square footage, which is, let's just say go with 1,000, and then you take that, and then say if I tell you it's $12 a square foot, or they might say $13.25 a square foot, whatever the number is. Let's just go with $12 a square foot. You times that $12 a square foot by 1,000 square feet, and then you get a big number. And then you divide that by 12, and then that gives you your number. So you go 12 times the 1,000, that gets you your big number. Then you divide that by 12 for the 12 months in a year, and then that's your monthly payment every time. So that way, when you calling around and you're asking people about space, brokers quickly evaluate on the phone who's serious. Like, are you going to be somebody they willing to spend time with and negotiate with? So when you get on the phone with them and they start saying, well, it's $13.25 or $12 a square foot and it's 5,000 square feet, you able to take your phone out and calculate it really quickly by 12 times 1,000 divided by 12, and you can spit it back out to them. Oh, that's 1,000 square foot. That's $1,000 a month, right? And he's like, oh, this person's serious. Okay, then now we can go to the next step. Like, okay, this is a serious person. Go, okay. But you want to be able to do some of that basic stuff, like calculating your square footage. And then on top of that, what happens is that they'll give you the $12 a square foot. But then remember I was telling you about CAM. The CAM is usually an extra charge outside of the 12. So they'll tell you $12 for your base rent, and then they'll tell you CAM is like $3.25. So then while he's talking on the phone, you combine both of them numbers, the 12 plus the 325, and then do the same process, times it out, break it down, and then you're able to split the numbers. So all in, I'm looking at this number. And they go, okay, they know what they're talking about. Okay, this is a person that we should be talking to because they understand the process. So that's, just small things like that is what people evaluate when you hop on the phone, you're talking about commercial real estate. So you want to make sure that you kind of just know a little. You don't have to know everything, but you want to know enough that they don't shut you out, because that's what they'll do is get on the phone with you and ask you a couple preliminary questions like something about CAM or something about triple net, the NNN, to see if you don't know what you're talking about. Then they're like, okay, this person will try to quickly kick you out.
What's triple net?
So triple net is similar to CAM. So triple net is taxes, insurance, and common area maintenance. So the different thing from CAM mostly is just like I said, your common areas, snow removal, all that stuff. A triple net is the additional charge of passing through the insurance and the taxes and the insurance on that too.
Okay.
You'll see a lot of CAM and triple net and retail spaces. When I say retail, I mean like storefronts, or if you get a place in a strip center, or like downstairs when you first walking up to this building, that's considered a storefront, like street level type retail. You'll see a lot of this because they pass through the charges, because they consider that. They just do it all mostly across the blanket on that. Office spaces are a little bit different. Sometimes they'll I don't want to get too into the acronyms and stuff, but in office spaces you'll see a lot of modified gross and full service, which means modified gross is you pay for your electric and your internet and telephone, and as the landlord, I'll pay the property taxes, I'll pay the maintenance, I'll pay all of that. But we gonna split it basically. We splitting this stuff. And full service is I'm as the landlord gonna pay for everything, electric, all of it, but you gonna pay me a little bit higher in rent because I'm paying for all that stuff. You don't have to worry about it. You just pretty much bring your furniture and your telephones and all that stuff in there, internet and getting up and going. So any questions on this before I move? I don't wanna, if you got any questions is good question. I wanna make sure that you're equipped before you walk out, out there and get out there. Yeah,
So that 1,000,
yeah.
then you add the tax and insurance in there, which is the triple net.
Yeah.
So you add that in there, plus the maintenance responsible. So all that end up being your monthly rent. Is that what you're saying?
Technically, yeah. Yeah. So they'll try to tell you it's two separate things. They'll try to tell you, oh, you only paying $1,000 in rent. The other stuff is a separate charge, but really it is all just one rent payment. Because once they tell you to send a check every month or the ACH every month, they asking for that whole amount. They're not gonna break it up, but for their books, they try to break it apart and say, well, this is for CAM and this is for rent. But technically, it's gonna all come out at one time. It's gonna be one big payment at one time. Yeah, yeah. So
They give you like a little breakdown on the side.
yeah, they'll try to break but you gotta request it though. You gotta request that breakdown because if you don't, they'll just you want to. One reason it's good to ask for that breakdown as far as like what are you paying on utilities, snow removal, all that. They gotta provide it if they charging you for it.
Right.
But you don't know if those numbers can fluctuate. So year one, you could be paying $3.25 in CAM charges. But last year, during the winter, it didn't really snow. So they didn't use it. So now this year it should go down to about $2.25 because you didn't get a lot of land, snow plow and all that stuff. But if you don't ask them for that every year, they'll just continue to give you $3.25 or raise it and say that, but if you gotta keep asking them for it. Be proactive on it because they'll try to, if they can make a couple extra dollars, they'll make it.
This remind me of my. The reason I asked it because it reminds me of my rent. So when they send it, my rent is this, but then you got all this other stuff like you got garbage over there.
Yeah, so that's all part of CAM. Yeah, they dumping all that stuff. That's so garbage. Any of that stuff that they consider that they passing it through CAM on you. So that's why you seeing all your number is this, but they throwing all this other stuff on top of it.
Yeah.
And then they ask you for that whole amount at the end of the month. So that's what they doing. They passing this through on you. Like, so I don't know if you make sure that you agreed to that in your lease. Because if you didn't agree to that, you could tell them to take that off because you didn't agree to that. Hey, in the contract it don't say nothing about you gonna be charging me CAM charges and all that stuff. We need to talk about this and get this removed. So, and legally they got to do it. That's another thing. These contracts is legal binding contracts. So it worked both ways. Like, if they can hold you to, if you didn't negotiate your HVAC, they can hold you to, you didn't negotiate it, so you got to pay for it. On the other side, we negotiated this and it's in my contract and you didn't put in here you was going to charge me for all this stuff, so you can't charge me for all this stuff. And they'll push back on you, say they can, but they can't because it's not in the contract. It's what's in black and white. In any contract, even if you go do an electrical contract, whatever you wrote in your contract and say that the service you're going to provide, a person can't come along and say, well, I want you to do these other rooms as well. You like, well, you got to pay or, we got to negotiate another contract, So all of that is part of that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I pulled up my lease.
Yep.
Because I didn't look into any of this. But, so I think this is saying that my landlord covers these things. It says, the leaser shall repair and maintain or cause to be repaired and maintain the structural portions of the building, including the standard plumbing, air conditioning, heating, and electrical systems, roof, unless such maintenance are caused in part by the leasing. So he would cover these things.
Yes. So the way that from what you said, the leaseor is the landlord, and if he's saying he's covering all that, you good, unless you cause some damage, or sometime when they put it in there, that's like if you hang a TV and put big gaping holes in there, or anything like that, you're responsible for basically bringing it back to at least what it was before you moved in there. And that's important because we had a lady 5 or 6 years ago that leased a space. She was a massage therapist. And we don't lease spaces to hundreds of those massage therapists, but she didn't tell us what kind of massage therapist she was until we came there to see her space when she was getting ready to leave after her lease was up. And she had holes all in the ceiling because she was like a massage therapist that walked on people's backs. So she had all these gaping holes in the ceiling where she had bars hanging down. And she just left all these holes everywhere. Like, it was like big holes too. Like, we like, you got to fix this. And she's like, no, that's normal wear and tear. It's like, I ain't never seen nobody do that. Like, what are you talking about? That ain't normal. Like so, but that's why they stick that in there to say that you got to fix it back because you don't know what you're gonna walk into when you take a space back. But that's a good question though. That's a real time thing right there though. That you.
Now, I was sweating because I'm like, ooh, I can't pay $30,000 for the lease back.
Yeah.
Because I renewed my lease in September.
Okay.
So this is.
Yeah. So in that renewal, make sure that you pay attention to make sure, if they try to escalate you in your rent or anything like that. Usually the escalate should be 3 to 5%. If they try to go beyond that, they trying to gouge you in some kind of way. They shouldn't go more than 3 to 5%. Really 3, because they try to keep up with the index, the slipping me the word like the cost. They try to stay up with the cost of living, so it's like a 3%.
Wait, what? She ain't gonna pay us 3%?
So when you renew a lease, like her lease is up in September, when she go back to the table and say, hey, I want to stay here for another year or 2 or whatever it is, they're gonna negotiate a whole new lease. Now they'll call it a renewal, and they may but they're gonna go back to the table. And sometimes they'll keep the rent as is, but most of the time they'll say, okay, well, if you're going to be here for another 2 years, we want a bump in rent because you're going to be taking the space. And that bump in rent shouldn't go past 3 to 5% of whatever it is. So it shouldn't go up more than 3 to 5%. If it go past 3 to 5%, then they pushing it a little harder, unless they did some major redo of the building and you got like crazy traffic or something, you okay with going past 3 to 5%. But that's usually 3 to 5% is the standard everywhere. So we kind of went over a lot of this, the base rent, just kind of go into details of this. The triple net, it shifts the taxes and insurance and maintenance costs to the tenant. So similar to prime example, a triple net would be like a Walgreens. Most Walgreens don't own their buildings. They go get a developer and say, hey, we want to build a Walgreens on Gilbert. I go get the land. I clear the land, I build the Walgreens, and then they lease it from me for 25 years. And I pass through all of this stuff to Walgreens. So they rent would go from $10,000 up to $30,000 because I'm passing everything through to them for that 25 years that they there. And they okay with that. Walgreens is because they like whenever they want to pick up and leave, they can leave and they don't have no ties to the real estate. So that's the purpose of like a triple net lease, is that I could pass through all of these things because when they decide to get up and go, there was only one person in that building, so I'm gonna go from having this money to zero. So on the other side of it, it's like I'm gonna pass through all of this and make as much, pass through all of this stuff and let them be as much of a landlord as possible. And then as soon as they leave, I gotta find somebody else.
How much of the insurance usually does the tenant have to pay? What percentage would you say?
So usually it's the percentage of your square footage. So if they say if it's 100,000 in your office space or storefront space is 1,000, you only have to pay, break that 100,000 down to 1,000, whatever that percentage is when it come out of that 1,000. So 100,000 divided by 1,000, and whatever that number is, that's what you have to pay of it. Yeah, you only have to pay a percentage. You don't have to pay the only time you have to pay the whole thing is if you like a Walmart or a Walgreens or somebody who's the entire tenant for the building. If you the one tenant for the building, they'll try to pass through all of it because they're like, you the only person there. But if it's 10 people there, they'll split it up 10 different ways compared to your square footage. So they'll try to, but if you just the one person there, they try to pass through as much, try to make it mailbox money as much as possible because they like you, I don't have no other opportunities to make no money in this building outside of you. So you got to do most of this stuff. And you see this a lot in malls too. Malls do this. They pass through a lot of stuff in malls. A lot of people don't go in malls as much. Even the kiosks that be in the middle of the mall, they selling. I don't even know how they stay alive in the middle of the mall where they selling like beads and stuff but they pass through everything through them and they got to stay open 7 days a week. They got to be there the amount of time the mall is open, and they pass through everything to them. And then on top of it, they get a percentage of they earnings. It's crazy, yeah. So, but it's because I'm bringing you the foot traffic, basically. That's what the mall, like if you go to Kenwood, you can't say about any of the other malls now, but Kenwood, the seller of you coming into the mall is, in Kenwood, you got all these luxury stores and all this stuff. You're going to have so much foot traffic 7 days a week. So since I'm giving you the foot traffic, I should get a piece of the sales. That's how they try to position it. And when our people downtown like to do this. 3CDC like to do this too. So if you go downtown and do a deal with 3CDC, just know that they're gonna ask for about 6%. They're gonna ask you about 6% of your business. So
What is the CDC?
so 3CDC, when you go downtown, it's kind of hard to miss them. Like anything in OTR.
The other politicians that started to push their
OTR, any of that stuff in OTR, over the Rhine, any of that stuff downtown, you see like these blue signs. And right now they're having a big argument right now because they're trying to buy the park where they kind of get it transferred over to them.
That's a nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
It's a nonprofit organization that do city development.
Yeah. So they supposed to come in if a building is an area is, let's just say they took over the Rhine right there where Vine Street and all that is, where the Eagle and all those restaurants is. Before, when you used to go down Vine, it used to be rough. The 3CDC got started by John Barrett, Western Southern, P&G, Charm, all of them, they came together and backed it for them to form this thing. And then somebody ran for them to do development downtown and basically revitalize downtown. But since then, which may have started as a good thing and then kind of grew into like a monster almost, where they just snatching up everything. And it's like a merry-go-round, the people that go into those spaces because the rents are so high. Yeah, they rents are like crazy high. They asking you to pay for all the improvements, and then on top of it, they want 6% of the business. So most of the people that are down there in there, they don't like to admit it, but I know I've seen a lot of the contracts. They are giving like, and not just like 6% of your profit. They want 6% of the business. Like,
and then with insurance, they got somebody down there evaluating. They'll tell you go do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And from my experience personally, because I wrote insurance policies for them, they were telling people to go get these insurance policies, and the people bring the insurance policies back, and they're like, "Oh, you don't have." They don't even know how to read the insurance.
Yeah.
They don't even ask what they don't know what they asking for.
Yeah,
so, they not credible.
It's a.
I'm sorry, y'all.
But it's a real thing. Yeah.
So they're nonprofit. What do they do with the money, with the rent money?
Pay it out to people, but also reinvest it into buying more property. So that's how they get away. Yeah.
They have employees.
Yeah, so you got to pay their
employees, and then they some of their money does get put in. It's not a lot of what it is that they receive, but a portion of the money does go into a grant program to try to get people to come into the spaces.
Yeah.
I was part of that program.
And the other part
There's
of
no
it,
money in it.
It's not a lot. Yeah,
it's not a lot.
It's not a lot. Yeah, but it is there. Though.
It is there, and then they use a lot of it to, like Ed was saying, go and buy up more spaces. So downtown was essentially black. I don't know.
Yeah, when I stayed in Mount Auburn as a kid, we used to stay. It's like a stone's throw from down there, Vine Street and stuff. My mama wouldn't even want to go take us downtown, like, because it was just so rough on Vine, especially when the old Kroger's was there and all that stuff. It was just so rough that it was like, even some of the, unless you lived down there, you really didn't want to go down there. So it started off as, it's supposed to be a good thing, similar like the Port Authority. It started off as a good thing, but once it started accomplishing some of the stuff it's supposed to, it started trying to expand. And that's when it started getting into, kind of gray areas when it starts expanding.
Yeah, that was my next question. Is the port, are they similar with their like terms and stuff like that? That 3CDC on how they operate?
So when I did work with every now and then they still call me to do work. So I did a lot of work early with the Port Authority when Mike Smith and all of them was still there. And the Port Authority is a little different. So the Port Authority, they come in and blighted neighborhoods are messed up, places that nobody can, even if it's in our neighborhood, we can't really, even if we could buy the house, it's hard to put enough money in it to make it back and make money off of it. So the Port Authority go at first, I don't know exactly what it is now, but at first it was they had 7 core neighborhoods, which was all inner city type neighborhoods. And they would go in and then in streets that had a whole bunch of houses that was abandoned, all that stuff, they would get the titles, get them stabilized, get them to the point where, say if it was falling down or foundation shift, and they would spend a lot of money getting it to the point where somebody could come in and actually spend real money to fix it up and get it back on the market. Because most of the time when you get one of those places, the shifting and the foundation, by the time you fix all of that, you don't have no money to actually fix the property and be able to rent it out or stay in it yourself. Like, so that was their main objective, was doing that. They would get money from the state and grants and all that stuff to go around, buy those properties, get them to the point of stabilization, and then get them out here to investors or people who want to own a home, fix them up, and then they'll be back on the market. So that's their whole goal. So they're a little different. 3CDC is buy a place and then commercial use, or they kind of do a little bit of apartments too, but commercial use is like the place downtown, the one guy got the wine bar that he's got. Something to whine about. So he in the 3CDC space. Like that's a 3CDC building. Like so they fixed it up. He put in his own money too, but then they got somebody in there utilized. So they more commercial focused. Port Authority, they do a little bit of commercial, but majority of their stuff is residential. So they buy up a lot of houses, get houses ready to go, and then have investors come in and fix them up so they can either live in them or rent them out. Yeah. But they don't want you to flip them quick. So when I used to sell them for them, I didn't sell the house. I only sold so that's why we didn't do a lot of work together, because they don't do a lot of commercial real estate. But the commercial real estate stuff that they did have, like Davis Cookie over in Bond Hill. So that building was like blighted and abandoned. And me, Christina, and her husband Miles went to that building and was like, man, we could put something here. And I was able to negotiate with the port and got them like over 6 figures worth of money that they was giving to them, like with no strings attached. They was like, we just want somebody in here, Ed, if you can. So we worked out the numbers where they got a whole bunch of money to fix it up, they space, and then that Port Authority came and fixed the rest of the building. And so now that's a good example. That was a good a good one there. So, but I can't speak for all the rest of the stuff. I don't know. It could be. I just don't deal in residential. So I hear a lot of stories when I'm going to neighborhoods and dealing with CDCs and residents and talking to council people about on the residential side. So I can't really speak to it. So I don't want to shoot them down because I don't know. I just hear a lot of stories though that sound crazy.
I have a question about.
Yeah.
So I am downtown. I went through the Main Street pop-up program, but I don't lease from 3CDC. I'm an independent landlord.
Okay.
But for future reference, so I didn't know that 3CDC did build outs. How do you, what does that process look like when you're negotiating prices for, is that where they then own part of your business because they're fronting the cost of that build out, or is that kind of do you pay it back, or how does that work?
So I think 3CDC is gonna get a piece of the business regardless. It don't matter if they built it out or not. It's just their business model.
Like equity?
Yeah, they get equity. Yeah, and the numbers that I always hear repeatedly is 6%. So it could go up from there, but I know 6% is the one I keep hearing.
And net income. So
Yeah, so even if you leave the property, they keep that equity.
They're a piece of your business. Yeah. They're a piece of the business. Now you gotta try to buy them out. Yeah, you gotta try to buy them out. So that's the double-edged sword of working with them. You get prime properties downtown if you can negotiate the numbers right. It's a prime property if you can get the foot traffic, and that's what they selling to you. They got a model similar to like a mall. It's like when I sat down with the lead person after Lindsay left. I sat down with the lady who took over it, Samaja, I think her name is, or something like that. Christy. But Christy. I sat down with Christy. Me and her had coffee for about 2 hours, and she was like just explaining the model to me. I'm like, this sounds like a mall. Like it's like a mall thing because really what they selling you is the foot traffic of OTR that they've created. Of downtown they used to have anything and nobody used to want to walk it, but now it's time. No matter what time of the day you go down there, especially on Vine Street. It's people walking all the time. So I'm selling you the fact that I'm gonna have foot traffic down here that may walk past your store. I can't guarantee they're gonna come in your store, but you're gonna get a lot of eyes and foot traffic walking by. So that's what they're selling you. So in return for that, like a mall would ask you for 5 to 6% of your profits. 3CDC is asking 5 or 6% of your business. So and at first I thought it was like a mall where they was asking for percentage of the profits. Once you hit a certain number, like in malls, if you sell over 100,000, once you hit that number, it kick into they get a percentage of what you kick into the profits. Everybody I talk to that do a deal with 3CD, when they read the contract to me, even over the phone, it's like, we get up 6% of the business. They become a partner. But, I feel like in a partnership, it's like, it is a talk. It's like, yeah, you provide me a lot of pluses, but also can I stomach the other side, of it, So I don't know. It's a judgment call. I can't really, if you want to be downtown bad enough, like this selfie lady, Selfie Sensi, she in the 3CDC space. Like me and her talk, and it seemed like it's working out for her. Like she went from one 3CDC space to a bigger one. So I'm like, she called me and we talked when she went to expand to the bigger one. We talked on the phone for a while and she was explaining to me, and I told her how I felt about him, and I told her what I think she should push back on. But she also was like, I'm comfortable. And I'm like, if you comfortable, I can't tell you, then do it. If you feel comfortable, you feel confident that you can sell enough or whatever you're trying to do that you will feel comfortable in this. Who am I to tell you not to do it?
She was a part of AOL last year.
Yeah, she was. Yeah.
And not to go, and so not to get too much of a business in terms of like how that stuff worked out, but a lot of it is, which is why I asked it to come, is the negotiation piece of it. Like, although 3CDC is very specific about how they do business,
I'm talking. I get the yapping.
It's still a company that you could, anything is negotiable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
People are gonna have their hard lines. You're gonna have yours, but it's like I was saying earlier, it's about how you come together and figure out like what the best option that'll work out for all y'all. And because I talked to her about it too, and she's comfortable in that space and she feels confident that she's gonna be able to be successful. Other people going into those spaces a lot of times, which is something that we kind of talked about too, is like, what's your goals, and not having a certain level of desperation and doing things because if you're willing to give up certain aspects of your business, but you don't understand what your long term is actually going to look like, you're going to be put in a position where a lot of businesses have been down there where they just kind of butt cheeks out, even if they leave the space, because 3CDC now has equity in your business. That's a part, like you said, that's part of their business model. That's a part of their structure. They're essentially like a mini private equity.
Yeah. A non-profit private equity.
So I guess when you so nonprofits, even though they're nonprofits, they run as a profit, like they run similar to a for-profit business. It's just what they do with the profits.
They just balance out at zero. Is that what makes them a nonprofit?
So it's similar like a church. Yeah. So a church, they taking in tithes, they getting donations.
Right.
But they got a staff, especially if it's a sizable church, you got a staff, so the pastor get paid, everybody on the staff get paid, all this stuff. Then if I got $100,000 left, what do I do with that? I can't, like a profit business. Yeah, I can't do that. I gotta disperse it and make sure that it's going out to uses that align with the mission, which is, whether it's philanthropy, grants, whatever it is, it's got to go back out because it's a nonprofit. It can't like if I'm running a business, I can stockpile and I can stockpile and reinvest or go out and acquire. It's a couple different fine tuning. I'm not by any means proficient in all of it, all of the different details. Ricky probably know it more than me, but I just know that it's a fine tune of how they work it. And once they disseminate it. So, but that's just, a couple different players in town that you're gonna run across these people as you grow your businesses, just to keep this stuff in the back of your mind, that certain people operate in different ways. The Port Authority, if you buy a commercial property from them, they got an application process. They get funded from different places, and you're able to get the building for which is, it's crazy. They might buy the building for $80,000, put another $200,000 in it. But then if you come along and you got a solid plan, you got some financials, you got a crew of people that can get the work done, they might sell you the building for $80,000. After they done put $280 in it, they'll sell it to you for $80 because they like, we want you to put it back on the market and put it to work. Now they won't let you flip it, but they'll let you get it for a discount after they done stabilized it and but they gonna vet you like crazy on your plan though. They gonna have you in front of boards talking about what you gonna do with it, how you gonna make it work, how long, all that different stuff, where you get the money from. But all of these things are tools. They might not be the right tool for you at the moment, but they tools for somebody, so everybody can use them. That's why they're able to stay around for so long, because they are tools for you to get stuff done. It's just, can you stomach the, what the end result for that particular organization is. One thing that, so tenant improvements, two things I want to talk about this before we move on to the next one is, am I good on time? Okay. Two things I want to talk on this is tenant improvements. A lot of landlords will give you a tenant allowance. So, you do a deal with a landlord, or you do a deal with 3CDC, or you do a deal with anybody, you'll tell them, hey, it's going to cost me to say if I'm opening up a barber shop, it's gonna cost me to run the water to all these different spots, to run the electric, to build shelves, all this different stuff is gonna cost me $150,000 to build this space out. Now you can go to your landlord and say, hey, do you provide a tenant allowance? It's gonna cost me $150,000 to build this out. Now the landlord might come to you and say, okay, we do provide tenant allowance. We will give you X amount of dollars per square foot. It may come up to 80,000. We'll give you 80,000. Know that you got to pay that back. You have to pay that back unless it's an organization like when we did with the Port Authority in Bond Hill. They had got a grant specifically from the state that was for minority businesses, and they didn't have to pay that back. But majority, especially if you for a regular landlord, for profit landlord, he'll give you the 80 up front or through phases as you build out the space. But they're gonna want that money back in some kind of way throughout the duration of your lease. So that may do two things. It may bump up you might only want to do a 2-year lease. It may bump you up to a 5-year lease because now I got to try to finance out that money to get it back. So I can't get it back in 2 years. That would be too much for you. You won't even be able to operate if I asked you to give me 80,000 back in 2 years. So now I'm gonna bump it out to 5 years. And now every month, instead of you giving me 5,000, you're gonna give me 7,000, and I'm gonna get that money back over those 36 or 60 months. I'm gonna get that money back over those months every month. So know that tenant allowance is a blessing up front, but you got to pay it back though. They're gonna want the money back in some kind of way, unless you run across a real generous person that's willing to give to a tenant. So exit and renewal clauses. Always stick inside your lease a renewal clause. Always. Even if you don't want to stay there, even if you don't care, you always stick a renewal clause in there. So if your initial lease is 2 years, always stick in hey, I want to do a renewal clause for an additional 2 years. The plus with that is you don't have to exercise a renewal. Once a renewal comes, you can tell them, hey, I'm okay. I don't want to exercise it. But if you get to that point, you already can kind of stabilize out your cash flow to say, hey, I know with this renewal clause, I already put in here that it'll go up 3% over those next 2 years. So you can budget for that. Like you can say, hey, you know what, this spot done got good. Now people, they done built this building over here, that building. Now the traffic is here. I know for a fact my rent only gonna go up from 2,000 up to 2,300 now. And I could budget for that. I could stomach that instead of trying to find another location. But if you don't put that clause in there, once the 2 years come up and they done built all this stuff around, the landlord now is like, I want 4,000 because everything around here done went up and I see that you got more traffic. So always stick a renewal clause in when you do a lease.
Is that what you mean by define your flexibility? Or like is a renewal clause like the percent that you would pay? Or
Yeah.
just the fact that you could?
Yeah, so renewal clause is like, it gives you the flexibility, one, that if you do want to stay there, you already got that figured out from day one. If I do want to stay there, the additional years of that renewal, I already got that figured out and I could budget for it. Mm-hmm. And then two, it stops a landlord from being able to poach you and go up on rent or go out and poach another tenant that was willing to pay him the additional money. So if you were paying 2,000 and you like, okay, if I don't stick a renewal in here, he can go find another tenant that's willing to pay him for it. And you got to go because your lease is up. But if you got a renewal in here by law, he got to come to you and say, do you want to exercise this renewal? And usually it's like 60 to 90 days before they come to you and say, do you want to exercise your renewal? And you like, yeah, I want to exercise. So by law, he has to write you a new lease with the bump that y'all agreed to ahead of time.
Is that where, so the bump, is that kind of like the cost of living wage or is the bump in the renewal clause?
So the bump is in the renewal clause and you set that up. You say, hey, 3 years, say your initial lease is 3 years. In that, usually I write it out in an LOI. So LOI is a letter of intent. I use letter of intents because I try to save the money of the tenant and the landlord before we get attorneys involved. We work back and forth off of a letter of intent saying, these are the main terms we want to work on. Mm-hmm. In that, I put, hey, initial term is 3 years, but we want a renewal for either 3 or 5 or 2 years, whatever it is that you agree to as the tenant that you're willing to, sign on for. You put that in there and you say, hey, I want to go up 3% on the renewal. I'm willing to give you 3%. Now, he might come back or she might come back and say, I want 5%, 6%, whatever it is. But you can negotiate that at that point. Okay. And then once you get closer to that time, you don't have to guess. You know how much it's going to be.
Okay, that's all.
So you talked about the renewal, but you didn't say anything about the exit. What does that look like? What's the difference?
So exit clause. So that's a little bit tricky, but you want to try to get it in there. You want an exit clause, and the exit clause look like they're not gonna just let you out. I'll let you know that now. Most landlords is not gonna let you out unless you are such a nuisance that they like, we prefer to have you out. Like, we want you gone. Like, other than that, they gonna try to hold you to your lease. And if you try to leave early, they'll try to sue you for it and get the rest of the money that's remaining on the lease. So the exit clause looks like sticking in there. They may call it a termination clause inside the lease language or whatever, but it is, most of the time it works out as I have to buy out a certain amount of months to leave. So if I do a 3-year lease and I get to month 12 and I'm like, this place is not doing what they said, the building is not good, all this stuff, I want to get out. So in the exit clause or termination clause inside the lease, you negotiate with the landlord and say, now they're gonna push hard because nobody want to give an exit clause because it's not a true lease if I got an exit clause in it. So they're gonna fight hard on it, but you got to hold your ground and say, I need this clause because I don't care what you make up. I don't know. I might get foot fungus in the 3rd year. I don't know. I want out. Like, whatever it is, I want out. Like, they're gonna say, okay, well, you're gonna have to buy out. Most of the time I've seen it's usually 3 to 6 months that they want you to buy out. So that's 3 to 6 months of rent that they're gonna want, and then they'll let you out your lease. It's something, it's a judgment call. If you want out that bad, you may have to cough up the 2,000 times 3 to give it to them. You
But
might
that's
come up
just
with
a covering your behind.
It's just a cover. You don't have to exercise it. It's just to have it in there. You want to have it in there.
So before we move on, based off what we learned, which financial statement is best utilized to help you make a decision about whether or not or how to execute your exit clause?
Cash flow?
Yeah.
Why?
Tell you how your money coming in and going out.
Right,
Yeah,
but what
you know,
else?
Well, like the cash flow projections too, like what you have coming, like you can try to anticipate your next few years so that you know if it's something that's affordable in the sense of, okay, now I know that this would go up 3 to 5%. This is how many months I would need to rent so that it would live in that projections statement, right?
Yes, so when you projecting out and you figuring out what's coming in and out of your business, and you have this clause, say the building isn't what it needs to be, but you are generating some form of a profit, and you have to make a decision to be like, do I execute this exit clause, and what does that mean for me moving forward? How soon am I able to get into another space? How much is that going to end up costing? Because my current rent right now is $2,000, but the new space I've been looking at is $33,000. How does that affect my profit? So you start going through these thought processes from a financial standpoint of a simple being like, do I just pay 3 to 6 months rent to get out of here and move on? Am I going to be more profitable in that other space? You don't know. It's not guaranteed. But those are the types of risks, calculated risks, that you have to be willing to take when you come into situations like this. Even with the renewals, like you said, am I projected out? All right, if I stay here, I'm only going to go up 300. That's not going to really affect my profitability. It's more people coming in here. I actually expect to bring more revenue in. The space ain't that bad. I can live with it. But like you said, they're building this up now. This is this. And so you're looking at it, you're like, okay, cash flow is going to improve. I feel confident in going in on that 5% bump. Let's do it. And so you just put your thought process from a financial standpoint while you're also negotiating all of this, because you need to make sure that you're prepared for what could potentially happen.
Yeah. So the way that I look at my job is in my role as a broker is to try to future proof a lot of stuff for you as a tenant. Because I'm seeing a lot more contracts probably than you seeing. So my thing is, I don't know. Yeah, you may give me your W-2s, or you may give me your profit and loss statements for me to share with the landlord so I can get a snapshot of it, but you know your business more than I know it. So my job is to, hey, these are the landmines. These are the things that I'm trying to protect you from. I'm going to show them to you, and now you have to give me feedback to tell me how to navigate through this. So like he was saying, if these things are in place to just protect you, I'm looking to protect you. Now, when you get to that point in the lease, I'm gonna be gone. You know, you guys got my number. You could call me when those opportunities come up. You could say, hey, I'm thinking about this. Remember that clause we put in there? This is how I'm thinking about it. But you don't have that opportunity if you don't put them in there. So that's all this is. This is just future proofing and protecting you. For when these opportunities come up, you don't know what may happen. But when these come up and these opportunities come up, you're like, I can take advantage of this. But you don't get them unless you do that.
You wanna go? No, because I've been talking a lot. Okay.
No, we can do both. We got time. You know, I'm going until Ricky tell me to get out.
So my question, well, one, Danny, I want you to send that to me because you got a better angle. And then two, so I have a couple of properties, right? And I feel like my breath stink. I'm sorry because I've been drinking protein.
I'm all over here. I know who you hit. I know who you hit.
Do not get too close. No, it's really, really strict, right? So, the renewal clause, who does the actual renewal clause? Because I actually had to, I feel horrible, but I actually had to go up on one of my tenants' rent like $300. However, I told him, I gave him a year, and I said in 2026, I'm gonna have to go up $300 because the condo association went up.
The fees, yeah.
Yeah, they went up like $200.
Yeah.
So I went up on him $300 in order for it to make sense.
Yeah.
But I gave him a whole year in advance.
Yeah.
But I didn't, and he was totally fine. He was like, I'm cool, like,
Yeah.
I'm never gonna move from here. Like, this is nice. I'm cool with the price and everything. But I didn't do, like, do I do the renewal clause or should he have done the renewal clause?
So I tell, whether I'm dealing with a landlord or a tenant, I tell them to stick a renewal clause in there. Some landlords don't want to do it because you don't know what the market doing. So say if as the landlord you knew your condos where they at, around them they finna build all kinds of stuff, and you know just from what you're seeing from talking to people the rent's gonna go up. You may not want a renewal clause in there because you might be like, I want to be able to see when the market come around in 3 years or 2 years or a year from now. You want to take advantage of that market. So as a landlord, you may not want a renewal clause in your stuff. So it's really beneficial to the tenant. It's really beneficial to him, so or her, whoever that is. They can take advantage of that. The only way I can see really a landlord really taking advantage of it is if the market is kind of shaky. If it's kind of shaky, you don't know if it's gonna go down. You don't know if they're gonna actually come to this area and build. And you like, I don't want nobody to come in here and try to go down on the rent. So I'm gonna put a renewal clause so I can get at least something, a little bump. Like I'll put the renewal in there for me to get a little bit of something. So that's what I can see a landlord doing. But if it's a market that's hot, residential, it's got a lot of stuff going on, like you like, I don't want that clause in there because I want to be able to, when that time comes, if we got to renegotiate, I want to get what the market rate is. The market rate may be, I'm getting 1,000 now. Market rate may be 1,600 when it come back around. So I want to be able to get 1,600. You know. Yeah, but one thing, I don't know if you did this or not, but one thing I advise everybody: stay away from the verbals. Stay out of the verbals and put everything in writing. Yeah, so but put everything in writing. I don't care if it's, hey, I know a year from now I'm putting in 300. Put that in writing. Yeah. Whether it's in the contract or send them an email, something that's legally binding that if you can, because verbal contract's supposed to be, but I mean when you get in a court, it's he say, she say, and they're gonna always come down harder on the landlord than they would on the tenant. So if you're in the landlord position, make sure you're putting stuff in writing, because what'll happen is when that time comes, out of nowhere, they have amnesia and be like, I don't remember you talking about it was going up. Well, I got a bill saying it's $300 more. You ain't said that. And you like, well, I'd have talked to you 5, 6, 7 times about this. So always put it in writing just to be safe, just to protect yourself. Because honestly, all kinds of people try to wiggle out of stuff when it's in verbal back and forth about things.
So if a landlord refuses to give you a renewal clause, should that be a deal breaker?
It's a judgment call. You know, if you feel strongly enough about the space and you like, I want the renewal clause, but this space, they won't give it to me. They pushing back hard on it, but I really love this location. Then it's up to you if you gotta make that call. If it's something that you feel confident enough about to say, I'm willing to bypass the renewal. To me, I feel like them not giving you a renewal is a bit of a red flag, but that's just me. That's just my personal feeling about it. Exit clauses, I see them shoot them down all the time. So that's just like a shot in the dark to see if you can get you an exit clause. Because once you put that in there, they're like, well, that's not a true 3, 4, 5 year lease. If you were given an exit clause, you can get out of this in 3 months. You can give me
So that is not as much of a red flag, but the renewal clause is.
to me.
To you.
To
I
me,
mean, but
yeah.
this is your profession.
Yeah, to me. So when I'm talking to a landlord or talking to another broker and I'm saying, hey, we want a 5 year lease and we want a renewal for another 5, the landlord should be, in my mind, like, hey, I got almost a 10-year lease if this work out. If he come back and like, I don't get no renewal, because that means that they really want to try to up the rent on you. In my mind, the way my mind will start working, I'll start thinking like, okay, what's the issue here? Why you won't give us that? I can see the exit clause, but not this. So yeah.
So 2 things. So how do you go about hiring a broker?
Mhm.
Where does like broker pay come from? And I mean, I'm
No.
assuming that we would pay, but where does the pay come from? And then do you do like buying buildings and leases, or do you just focus on leases?
So I'll just talk from my standpoint. So I do buys and leases and all that stuff. So I came in doing leases. I learned a lot about buys and stuff, and then working with all these municipalities is a lot of buying and stuff. So I do a lot of buying and selling for them. So I do that. So this is a big one too when it comes to pay. So it's a little bit different on the residential side. All of it is considered real estate when you think of when it's coming from Columbus. It's all considered real estate. There's no difference between a commercial person or a residential. But it is different with the way that we operate as commercial brokers and residential brokers. So a percentage is the whole percentage is 6% of the sale, 6% of the buy, or 6% of the whole amount of the lease. So if the lease came up, when you calculate it all up, it come up to $300,000, we get 6% of that. And then if it was another broker involved, we split that 3 and 3 amongst each other. So technically, they passed the law. They changed the law when it comes to brokers. So used to be that if a person had a buyer broker, they didn't do a lot of work. Or sometimes they didn't. Some of them really do a lot of work. Sometimes I'm working with people, I'm doing a lot of work and I'm on the buyer side. They will come along, and once we get close to doing the deal, they'll pop in and be like, well, I talked to them 6 months ago. I get 3%. Like, so now the National Realtors Association, they had to pass a law, and I think it's all states, they go by this now, that they changed it, that if a person come with a buyer broker, they have to ask permission now if they can get a percentage of that fee from the seller. So the seller don't have to pay you, the broker. So they got to ask permission if the seller say, okay, I'm fine with giving you 3%, and the seller broker is okay with it, then you could do a deal with them. So it's a little different. So if you're working with a person that's helping you find some space, make sure that they know that to go find and ask the broker, is it okay if I work on this? And would you give me a percentage of it? I personally always charge the landlord. I don't charge the tenant. I've probably over 1,000 something deals. I've only time a person had paid me was one time, and that was because we did a land contract over in Cheviot on a daycare. We did a land contract, and it was so wonky that it wasn't a lot of money being paid out. It was like over time. So the broker was like, man, it's not gonna be a lot of money. We ain't seen this money for years. Once you have your person pay you, I'll have mine pay me, and then we'll just be done with it. So that was the only time out of all the deals. Most of the time I charged the seller, and I just put it inside the LOI, I put it inside the contract that you owe me. And then they, similar like when you sell a house, they just take it off the top and give you a check. They make sure that they vet you and make sure that it's a confident lease before they give you the check. But
And you said that's 6% of the sale, the full lease, or
6% all the way around the board on the commercial side. Now, residential is different. They be doing 2%, 1%, 1.5. They be all in the weeds. But in commercial, standard is 6%, 3 and 3. And then if it's get into like massive deal, like we did Martin Luther King and Redden up here across from the Digital Futures. I did that one by myself with the developers. We acquired all that land and then sold it to Uptown Consortium. That was like multi-million dollars. So they knocked me down from like 6% to a 4%. But I got the whole 4 though. But it was like, we're not giving you 6. You crazy. Like, that's a lot of money. Like, which I don't know why they be counting pockets, but I did a lot of work for that, man.
6%.
Yeah, you count a lot of pockets over here.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
I heard, which is everything you just
Yeah,
explained.
yeah.
And I can see how that makes sense to me if you were dealing with a buy and sell thing. But if you're looking over a contract for somebody like me that's just trying to lease this building,
Yeah.
I'm not understanding how you charging the landlord. If you're just looking over the lease, I'm not really
No. So, your business was
Healthy Hair Matter.
so like a
Hairstylist that do
hairstylist.
lots of it.
So we find you. We me and you going around. I'm looking at properties. We find you a location to put your hair stylist bar in there.
Mhm.
We find it. I get with the broker. We negotiate, and we come up with terms. The landlord say, okay, I'm okay with those terms. In that LOI that they okaying, I stick in there that Ed Mathis get 3% of this lease.
Mm.
So then once we negotiate that and we go to lease, once they sign it, at the closing.
So that is money you're getting over time, not.
No, I get mine. Yeah, I get mine right there. Like,
Uh-uh.
and the other broker too. So once they, yeah.
So you don't really work for me. You will be working for the other person, the landlord.
No. So once we negotiate the deal, I'm negotiating for you on your behalf.
Uh-huh.
I'm negotiating back and forth hard with them, saying, hey, she want this. No, we don't want 5. We want 3 years. No, we want this. We want that. Once we negotiate hard and we go to a lease, and once the lease is signed, I fill out an invoice and give it to the landlord and say, pay me my 3%.
Because essentially you're getting a tenant in his building.
I'm
so
putting a
he's
tenant in
getting
there.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you're kind of doing him a favor, but you're really working for us.
Yeah, I'm working for you, but he gonna pay me for all the work that.
That you
And
had to
a
do
lot
to
of
get
brokers,
in
some
there.
brokers don't do that. That some brokers will charge you and say, well, since I'm working on your behalf, pay them because I don't want no friction or static with them. Pay me, and then I just do all the work for you. But I don't work like that. I charge them because they the ones with the money. I feel like you got to do a build out. You got to do all this stuff, marketing, bring in staff, all this stuff. If I can pass off this few $1,000s onto the landlord, who finna get, because you finna give him a check for a security deposit in the first month rent. Finna give him that. So now our fees may be a little bit more than that, but you get ready to be there for the next 5 years, so he can make that money back. He already budgeted in that in. Whether he want to tell me that or not, he already budgeted in. I'm gonna have to pay them, the brokers, $10,000. So I need to already be budgeting that. Now I'm gonna act like I ain't, but I already know they're gonna come asking me for $10,000. So I'm already budgeting that. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I get it. Okay.
Next
Yeah.
question. So I know you're working with like digital features. Do you work with like, can we contact you like or your business to have brokers help us in our leasing, or are you more focused on like big business right now? I guess like
yeah.
what's that?
No, so just like at the beginning, Nightcap, they're a smaller restaurant. Like, they run it's really nice restaurant, but it's a smaller restaurant. So I'm like I'm a bit of a hybrid. Like I do a lot of bigger stuff, but I also do a lot of stuff with like entrepreneurs and like solopreneur people that are trying to. Now I want to do everybody. Like if it's like some people that come along and I like to work with people who got aspirations to try to do something that's gonna change the region in some kind of way, or like create wealth for your family and everything. But if you just like somebody just trying to throw up a shingle to make a little bit of money, and then or you're gonna be it's gonna be a lot of headache involved with it, and not a lot of. I can say, hey man, look at this person. I could point at Davis Cookie and say, man, look what they doing. They in Kroger now. They doing all that. And that was a small lease. That was like, that wasn't a lot of money, but it was like I can point to them and say, look what they doing. Like I'm proud of that. Like that they doing their thing. Nightcap, all these other businesses that I don't work with, I could point to that. So I'm definitely fine with that. Long as long as you got aspirations to do something real, do something well for the community.
Give you some perspective. I've only referenced one person to it, and I've been here almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And so, because I understand, and out of respect for him and his job and what he got going on, I have to be a buffer when it comes to that type of stuff too. And I feel like people do the same thing with me a little bit. Not as much, but a little bit, where it's like, Rick is only going to be able to talk to you if this. And so that kind of eliminates a lot of people, unfortunately. But there are other resources and people around.
Yeah, it's a ton of people that do that specialize in only, but I feel like so when you come to me, it's like like once you come in and once you turn my head and you get my attention, it's like a bazooka go off, because I'm like, whatever the resources is to get you there, and a lot of people are not ready. Once I turn and say, okay, I'm gonna get you in contact with this person, that person, this person, that person. The funding gonna come from here. Like Nightcap, we reached out to the city of Cincinnati. Eric Denson got them 20, 30,000 to put in their business. Like I'm like, we gonna run if we gonna run. Like, but a lot of people are not ready for that. Like a lot of people are just not. There's no knock on them. It's just that's just not they wasn't ready to like. Once we hit the ground, we gonna run. Like because it's like I want to get you to the point as fast as possible because I want to see you win. Like but a lot of people they hit the brakes and they be like, oh no, hold on. I got to do this. Hold on, what you doing? Hold on. And it's like, okay, now you're creating friction for me because, like, I got it. I'm taking time. Yeah.
So, I mean, how should someone be prepared to take on a situation like that?
So I would one talk to Ricky and get your stuff in line because what's gonna happen when you come to me and any broker, it ain't just me, but any broker if they're a serious broker, what's gonna happen is once they put you in a situation to look at a space, some of the first things they gonna ask for immediately is this business viable? They got something, and the way they can tell if your business is viable is all of the documents, your financials, your profit and losses, all that different stuff. And sometimes that's hard if you're a newer business, you don't have a lot of that stuff. But if you're working with somebody like Ricky or Danielle, they're able to put you in a position that once I ask for that stuff, I could take that documentation and say, this is what they're doing. It don't shoot you in the foot that you're a brand new business. But if you come to the table, you got to be prepared because they're going to ask you a lot of questions. And they're going to vet you hard, and you got to have those documents ready. And then once we get to that point, once I can show them that and get past that first gate of, okay, I'm willing to take it. Then at that point, the landlord can take a chance and say, am I going to take a risk on this business or not? Because at the end of the day, whether we like to say it or not, it is a risk. Whether you putting a person in your condo, whether you putting somebody, you taking a risk on that particular person to say, I'm betting on you that over the next 5 years, you're going to be able to have a viable business. And in those 5 years, I can't have access to that space because it's your space. So if you're having trouble, you can't get clients, you can't make money, that's all going to fall back on me because you ain't going to be able to pay me the rent. So I'm taking my property off the market for 5 years to give it to you. So I want you to win. So that's why they vet you super, super hard. Like, so that's how I look at it. So, all of this stuff is good. That's why when Ricky like, hey, man, I'm like, this is good because these people come out of this more prepared, and you got a resource to go back to and be like, hey, Ricky, I was talking to this landlord, and he asked me for this. I didn't know I needed that, and he able to help you like, okay, you need to do this, and that puts you in position. Then you could bring it back, and I could get it over there because I'm gonna fight like a dog for you, but I can't if you don't have the stuff to fight with. Yeah. So, in a nutshell, so once you get those documents, I'm able to take those, create you a LOI, letter of intent with all your terms. To say, hey, this is what they want to do with the space. This is how long they want the space. This is what, all the different things. This is what I need you to do as a landlord for when I come in there, all that different stuff. Then the negotiation began. We start going back and forth with that LOI saying he going to come back with it. They call it redlining. They come back and literally redline it and say, you said you wanted a 3-year lease, we want a 5. You said you want to pay $2,000, we want $2,500. They're going to come back. Then we go back. Usually you can get about maybe 2, maybe 3 go backs before people like, I'm done talking now. This is too much. So once we get to that point, that's at that point because letters of intent are not legally binding. So at that point, if they push back and you're like, I'm not okay with this, you can walk away. But if you say you're okay and you go to the lease, keep this in your mind. Letter of intents are not legally binding, so they can't hold you in court for those. But if you sign a lease, you are in that space. That's your space. And if you decide to walk away from that space, whatever amount of time that was left on that lease, money-wise that they was banking on, they're gonna ask you for it, and they're gonna possibly put you in litigation to get it back. So just keep that in mind. Letter of intent. Try to work off a letter of intent as long as possible, because you can always walk away from that. But when you get to the lease side, you got to be 100% sure before you sign it. As sure as possible. You can't predict the future, but as sure as possible before you sign off on that, because that make it concrete. You can't move after that. So just to blow through this. So a couple common missteps: anchoring solely to monthly rent figures. So that's basically what I was saying. They give you that monthly rent, but then the CAM and all that stuff, you only setting your budget or your profit and loss and all that stuff, your budget to the monthly rent number. That's a big mistake. You want to try to get all the numbers you can get and then build your stuff, because that's what they're gonna be asking for. All of this. This is just, you can negotiate this. This is a number that they can go up and down on. But this stuff over here is part of the rent too, technically. They don't want to call it that, but that's what it's part of. So you want to add all those numbers together. Accepting standard escalation clauses with caps. So basically like the HVAC, what I was saying, set a cap, say, hey, per incident, I'm not gonna pay over $1,000. Electrical, plumbing, same thing. I'm not gonna go over this. Anything over that, you pay for. Anything under that, I'm willing to pay for. And then also one other thing, when it comes to leases, especially if you're doing a longer lease, ask them if you could stair step it or escalate over time. So you could start low. One thing he said, which is 100% true, in commercial real estate, not so much in residential, because residential got standard contracts for apartments. They got standard contracts. When it comes to commercial, everything is negotiable. I mean, even the color of the paper, everything is negotiable in the commercial real estate. So if they telling you they want $3,500 for 5 years, tell them, hey, I'm willing to get, can we start at 2,000, move up to 2,500, move up to 3,000, move up to 35. So you win at the end, you get your 35, but it gives me time to ramp up to that. I don't just walk in the door hitting 35 unless you're super confident. But I always try to work out a stair step unless the tenant tell me I'm okay with that number, and let's just go at it. You know, some people are cool with that number, but I like the stair step over time. So stair step and escalating the leases is good in my mind. Overlooking who is responsible for repairs of the system. So that goes back to your lease. Make sure that you go through your lease with a fine tooth comb like you went through yours, and you've seen, hey, he responsible for all this or she responsible for all this, and I'm responsible for this. So that's it. It's not a big section, but it's an important section to go through to make sure that what you're responsible for. And failing to negotiate before the landlord has other interests. So make sure that you, and just going back to the lease, make sure that you're doing it in a timely fashion too. Because you got to think, you're on the clock. Once you start negotiating with somebody, you're on the clock. So it's like, yeah, you might be feeling like you drinking out of a water hose right now because they coming at you with throwing numbers and you got to make decisions fast. But you got to think it's other people that want the space too. So if you take too long or you taking weeks in between you answering them, they just gonna go to somebody else and then your space gonna be gone. So you gotta be prepared up front to like, hey, what am I okay with, what I'm not. So when things get to negotiating back and forth, you're able to keep up pace because some documents start flying back and forth quickly when we doing it. Then we covered all this. Oh, rent. One thing I do want to cover here is free rent periods. I always try to stick you a free rent period in there because you got to think when you get in there, you're not going to walk in day one open, ready for business. It's just almost impossible to happen that way. So I usually try to push, 90 days, but most of the time they give you 30 to 45 days, or maybe even they didn't give you maybe even 60. 90 is like a little bit of a stretch. Or if you got to do a full redo, I done had some time where I done got it up to 6 months, but that was like real bad. They was like, we understand. We ain't putting no money in this. You doing everything. So, but 30 days to 90 days, that's pretty standard. You can ask for that. But ask for that. Don't leave it on the table. Don't walk in and say, oh, I'm okay. I don't need no rent. Take it. Because they already preparing for you to ask for that. So ask for it. And they may say only giving you 30 days, but 30 days better than no days. That's free rent that you can get your space up and ready to work.
I negotiated myself my initial lease, and I ended up knocking off like $600 off the rent for build out, and then also I got 2 months to get the build out. So
that's it. They're between 30 to 90 days, so 60 days. Yeah, you can usually push. 90 is a little bit of a push, but you usually can get them in between there, depending on if you asking them for a lot. If you ask them for everything, they may only give you 30 days. But if you asking them for, hey, I'm gonna do a lot of stuff, I'm just asking you to take a little bit off the rent, do a little bit, they might give you a little bit more time because they feel like, oh, I don't have to do much to put money in this space. So all of this stuff is kind of covered in you want to pay attention to the lease. I don't know if you're gonna send this out to them, Ricky, but what happens if your business? This is all part of future-proofing and protecting yourself. Because if your business grows, it's more common than people think. Your business growing, like you might outgrow your space. You got your gym, you might be doing your thing, and then next thing you know, you get an influx of people, and you like, man, I can't. This 2,000 square feet is just not enough space. I'm turning people away. I need to go up to 4,000. That's an important thing. So that's part of that exit clause, extension clause too. Is that so? Keep that in mind, and then making sure you pay attention to the hidden costs, which would be HVAC, all that different stuff like that. Make sure you pay attention to that because those things will get you out of nowhere. So before you negotiate, make sure that you got market insights. Make sure that you look around. You got places like, so I'm gonna give you a couple websites to look on. So LoopNet, LoopNet is a commercial real estate site.
LOOP.
Yeah, LOOP net. And that's a free site. You can go in there and browse spaces. Crexi, so CREXI, that's a commercial real estate site. That's free that you can go in there and look at spaces. And then one that people glance over all the time is Craigslist. Go to Craigslist and go to the commercial listings, and you'll be surprised how many landlords and brokers put properties on. I put properties on there. Pay $5, you put on there, but there's so many people that go on the site and look. So those 3 sites are good sites just to go in there and check the market. You look in there, say on LoopNet, they'll even pull up a map, and you can downsize it to the area that you're looking in, and it may give you 10, 15 properties that's in the area, and you can see, oh, is this dude asking me or she asking me for a fair number because everybody else is paying 12 and he asking me to pay 15. Why is that difference? Like, it's good to know that stuff when you're going in to negotiate a deal. And negotiation strategy, just make sure that you be prepared to go back and forth, because you could lose a deal with that speed of going back and forth because you don't know what you're agreeing to and all that stuff. I would say if you could find somebody that's willing to charge the seller, get you somebody that's helping you, like, that knows commercial real estate. It's a lot of these hybrids out here that say they know commercial real estate, but really they do residential, and they could do a little bit of commercial, and then they call me and ask me, and they be like, which I don't understand how you can really make the money, but you asking me to negotiate it for you over the phone and still tell you what to do. But make sure that you find you somebody, if you do go that route, that knows commercial real estate. Same way if you get an attorney that does commercial real estate transactions, because that person sees this all the time, so they'll know if it's right, wrong, all that stuff. Like, if you're doing commercial real estate electric, you know more than a person who do single family houses electric. You like, okay, we gotta add costs for this, that, and this, because these are the things that you see it all the time, And then make sure you risk protect, which is basically all this stuff, the HVAC, making sure that the renewal clauses, exit clauses, all that stuff. Make sure you protect yourself as much as possible. But yeah, that's it. This is my contact here, 513-549-0440. That goes straight to my cell. And then my email and stuff, you'll see that once they send it out. But yeah, I'm always open to have a conversation. I will be honest, sometimes leave a voicemail, I'll call you back, because sometimes it get hectic between running downtown to the county and then running over here to see clients and run over. Like, when I leave here, I'm running up to Loveland. Like, it's like I'm always running. So if you call and I don't answer, leave a voicemail, and I promise you I'll call you back. Or shoot me a text. You can text that number too, and I'll call back and try to help you as much. Even if you just got questions, I don't need to make a dollar off for everybody. If you got a question and it's serious, like, hey, I need to figure this out, or what would you do in this situation? I'm not gonna be like, well, I bill $100 an hour, so I'm not gonna do that to you. Just call me and ask me a question, and I'll do my best to try to answer it for you. My wife get mad because I sit on the phone a little too long sometimes. I'm supposed to be watching one of these TV shows and stuff with her. So, but give me an excuse to get off that TV. So, but yeah, I'm here to support in any kind of way, man. Thank y'all for letting me bother y'all for a little while.
Thank you.
But before we stop, any questions before I don't want to leave you with nothing. Yeah.
I have a house in North College Hill, and I need to kick it up a gear. It is absolutely beautiful. I'm trying to see exactly what angle I want to go with it. It is zoned for a senior assistant living home.
Okay.
I need to put some ads in the Jewish newspaper. I want to go to the area of Madeira, Wyoming. I told Ricky I was gonna come see it. I want to see if you'll come see it.
Yeah.
I need to get some people in there. It is like state of the art. It is beautiful.
Number one thing that I would do is take some. You don't have to get pay a professional person to do this.
I already got.
Take some nice pictures and stuff.
Got them
done. Put it on Craigslist.
Okay.
Now, it might sound crazy to you, like Craigslist. There's a whole bunch of craziness on there, but it's serious people that go on there looking for housing, and they go on there looking for commercial real estate, and they go straight to those other. I can't speak about all the other links where they selling bikes and all that other stuff, but those commercial real estate one and the real estate one, just put it on there, and you'll be amazed how many phone calls you get, especially for a house. You renting it or you selling it?
No, neither.
Oh, you just trying to showcase it. Okay.
No. I'm putting. I'm trying to see if I'm gonna put seniors in there or if I'm gonna put special need clients in there.
You said it's in North College Hill.
Mm-hmm.
North College Hill is interesting though because that was
Very.
they got like that village mentality where they can have, North College Hill is wild, man. They can have a council meeting and change the zoning of a whole area in one meeting.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I had my first building I was selling was on Goodman.
Mm-hmm.
It was zoned for churches and all this other stuff. We get the lease. We was giving them a ground lease. We set it up, literally going to the closing. I just happened to call the guy that used to run it. His name was Bill. That was over the zoning department. I don't know if he's still there, but
Bill's still there.
yeah, I called Bill. Just happened to call him just to be like, hey, Bill, like I'm just letting you know we finna close. Somebody gonna move into the. And he was like, oh man, Ed, I wish you would have called me yesterday because we had a meeting last night and we changed that whole district over there where like the it's called College Hill State. No, I think it's called Station. That new place that College. So before all that was there, it was that blue and yellow building across the street. Now it's like a dance studio or something. But that building, we had everything. The money was getting transferred. We was heading to the bank to do the transfer. And he was like, last night we had to change and we just changed. In Cincinnati, it take months for that to happen. College Hill, North College Hill could do it in one night, man. They could just long as they all come to the meeting, they could change they changed the entire district and was like, we turn it into entertainment. We don't want anything other than like bars and restaurants over there. I was like, all right, the money in hand. Like, man, I gotta feed somebody with this money. Like, you talking about I gotta lose this? So
yeah. So I definitely want to see if you will come see it.
yeah, absolutely. You tell me when if you having like an open house or something, I'll let her come over and check it out. But yeah, did you check? So you checked the zone and everything?
Oh,
make sure.
all of
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's not on Billy's.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll love to come check it out. You just tell me when, and I'll definitely stop by. I don't stay too far from there anyway, so I can stop by there. Yeah. Any other questions for me before I'm off to see the wizard? Thank y'all again. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can we get